No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Something is about to break.
Hello and welcome to episode 27 of the About to Break podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Hughes. Right now, our family is on a road trip to Yellowstone. We literally loaded up the soccer mom van and we drove all the way from California to Wyoming. And we're going to be hanging out here for about a week camping, and then we're driving all the way from here to Texas because I got a couple of shows in Texas over the next few weeks. So we're going to be doing a series of magic, doing some comedy in the great state of Texas, and then driving all the way back home. So if you think about it, throw some good vibes our way. We're on the largest road trip that we've ever taken. This week on the podcast, I have Bobby Hartry. Bobby Hartry runs Catbeach Music. I met him when he was playing guitar for our buddy Brenton Brown. And we hung out and got to talking about life and art and the music business. And he brings a really great perspective because not only does he produce his own music and write for other people and also put their creativity into production, Bobby makes music for television. So he'll get a call from ABC or Disney and they'll say, we need a song that sounds like this, and he takes it from nothing into creation, and you've probably heard his music on TV. In fact, he's won several Emmys for it. We get into it. It's good. You're going to love it. Only thing to plug this week is we've got another Jokers and Aces show coming up, folks. That's right. The first one went so well that Nerd Melt went ahead and gave us dates for the next 3 months, and so we've got a monthly show coming up at Nerd Melt. Eddie Firth and myself hosting that show with the best magicians and comedians in town. You can go on the abouttobreakpodcast.com website and click on live shows, and there will be a link where you can go and you can get your tickets, and we will see you guys there. It's going to be on July 2nd, Sunday, July 2nd, 7 p.m. Jokers and Aces. Go get your tickets today. But right now, sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Bobby Hartry. Well, hey guys, welcome to About to Break. I'm your host, Taylor Hughes, and this week I am joined by the wonderful Bobby Hartry, and we are in your studio, man. This place is like magic.
Yeah. Welcome. Yeah, thanks for coming, man.
Oh, this is so rad. We're in Rancho Palos Verdes. Is that okay to mention where we're at?
Yeah, just don't give the street address.
The exact address. Yeah. Yes, and the times he will not be around.
Right, exactly.
No, we're in Rancho Palos Verdes, which is, it's funny, I was driving in and we've come so many times because this is right by the cruise port.
Exactly, yeah.
You guys ever cruise? You ever go out on the cruise ship thing?
No, but I'm going on my first cruise at the end of June.
Oh, that's cool. Actually. Where are you going?
Alaska.
Oh, we haven't done that one, but I've heard
it's pretty amazing.
Well, and that's kind of the way you want to do it because everything you want to see in Alaska, you want to kind of get the view from the ocean looking out.
Right, exactly.
That's really cool. Is this for work or for pleasure?
It's for work. It's for work. It's a gig with Brenton Brown.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. Jen's going with me and my wife Jen, and
That's so cool,
should be fun.
Man. That's awesome.
We're going to go dog sledding.
In Alaska?
Yeah.
I didn't know you could do that.
I guess that's a thing you can do, yeah.
Is this one of those, they send you the tour booklet and they're like, okay, these are all those ports, and then you can sign up for go out in a Jeep or be pulled by dogs.
Exactly. So
that is so cool.
We're definitely going to do the dog.
Is that something you've always wanted to do, or just you saw it and were compelled?
I didn't know I always wanted to do, but I clearly have, because you can tell how excited I am.
That's really cool. I wonder, is there like a training course you got to do, or are they just...
that's a good question. I better read up on this.
Right, they just make you watch that movie with Cuba Gooding Jr. That's the prerequisite. One time we went to Australia and climbed the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And they give you these harnesses and stuff, and they make you watch this pre-safety thing. So I don't know, there might be some dog sled don't feed the dogs or...
Exactly, yeah. Or you give them the wrong command and they just take off into the tundra somewhere, like...
You have to learn Russian or something. It's like a 6-month prerequisite. Well, man, thank you for doing this.
Of course, yeah.
This is cool. So I met Bobby from... you play guitar with Brenton Brown.
Yes.
And that is one of the many things you do.
Correct.
But we've gotten to do several different events together, and one of my favorite parts of those events is, afterward getting to sit around and talk about life and art and family and all that stuff. And I hit Bobby up and said, hey, man, what if we do this in put it on the interwebs for the whole world to hear. So
Love it.
in this studio, I wish I could paint a picture better with words. It's always funny. People say, "Where do you record the podcast?" You know, and I say, "Well, wherever you are." You know, I kind of bring stuff with me, but I love whenever I get to sit down with someone in their creative space, and you've designed something here that is magic, man. You walk in here, and the outside world, it feels like it just goes away.
True. Yeah, no windows at this point. Yeah. No outside windows. Yeah, it's, this room actually, what's cool about this room is I've been doing music in this room my whole life.
Yeah.
The studio's on the property of my folks. It's my folks' property. And when I was a kid, I used to, come out here. There's like a pool table and a ping pong table, and I used to like plug into my little amplifier, when I was like 12, and play, whatever, learn, like try to play a Zeppelin riff or something, and then when I got into high school, started jamming in here with friends, and in college also, and then started playing around with recording myself, and then slowly just got really into the recording end of things. And so I built this thing out, made it a proper studio. Yeah, I wish we could have pictures.
Yeah, I can take. Maybe we can snap a couple of pictures and we'll put them on. Yeah, I'll put them on the show notes so people can see. It really is.
So now it's my cave, my little my cocoon. It's
well, and I walked in too. So the artistic part of me is just like, because right now I was telling you, Katie and I have been talking about trying to find a space, for the work that we do, and creating different routines and things like that. And just something about getting in the proper environment to be creative.
Absolutely.
It's almost like you flip a switch and it's like, there's a little bit more oxygen in the room in a place like this,
Yeah. It's funny. Sometimes I'll even come in here and for a good half an hour, I'll just take a big deep breath and just whatever, because it's like calibrating for me, it's like it shuts out the world and it's quiet and I can think, and then it can be not very quiet and very noisy. Yeah.
Well, and then the part of me that is, so like I played a guitar starting in junior high, and I don't play much anymore. I need to get back into it, but I walked in here and I was like, oh my, like every guitar that was on my wish list as a child is hanging on the wall. Like oh look, there's the amplifier that I always read about. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like how much of this gear was like sought out and I'm gonna get this and it's on a list, and how much of it was just you were somewhere someday and came across something?
It's definitely a combination of that. There are, like I've got a couple old Fenders that I was like, oh, I gotta have a Fender Strat or a Fender Jazzmaster and Les Pauls and stuff. But then like right up here, there's this old Jaguar that a friend of mine in Nashville bought. I think it's a 64 Jaguar, Fender Jaguar. And he bought it in Nashville, and I bugged him for like 5 years. Like, dude, you have to sell me that guitar.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that.
Oh, totally.
That's so rock and roll right there, right? I think Kurt Cobain would be proud of me.
Oh, yes.
For that guitar. So I broke him down, and he finally sold it to me. But yeah, there is a weird combination of stuff. Like there's that Gretsch there, and the little I just walked into Groon's Guitars in Nashville one day. I was in there, I was on a gig, and I had a little bit of free time, and it was like that guitar was calling my name in the corner, like pick me up.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are some guitars that just. It is funny how guitars are like that. You pick you're drawn to certain ones, or you pick them up and they just feel like an old friend, like.
Well, and even with some newer guitars, you could see 3 or 4 of the same model,
totally.
And you play that one, and for some reason,
yeah,
the piece of wood, it's what I mean. Like there's just something different with.
Absolutely.
I was I saw you guys just went to see U2, right?
We did. Yeah.
How was that?
It was amazing. It really was. I mean, it's larger than life. It's so inspiring. It was.
In this tour, are they playing the Joshua Tree album?
They play it top to bottom. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Man.
So I mean, the quick overview. Not to get into the weeds too much, but
no, go for it.
Yeah. So they come out. There's the huge stage. We saw them at the Rose Bowl.
Okay,
massive.
Total, like 110,000 seats or 90,000.
Yeah, there was like 93,000 people there. Yeah. There's a massive stage, but then there's a little tiny stage, like a satellite stage, down. Kind of, I don't know, maybe 100 feet or 75 feet,
like a catwalk kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
So they start out they do a short, like 5-song set of mostly really old stuff, like Sunday Bloody Sunday, and stuff like that. So they do a little set out there, and then that set ends, and it was amazing. It was great, you know. And then the room the stadium dims a little bit, and then the big stage turns red, and then with a big old silhouette of a Joshua tree. Yeah. And then you hear that pad, right? And then they walk up the catwalk, and you just see their silhouettes, and they just kind of like stick their arms in the air and just kind of like wave. And then Edge starts that, open, and then they from there they just do the entire Joshua Tree record. It was amazing. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of in tears a couple.
It's something very emotional. I mean, not only the music itself, but then you think back, like how many moments did you experience in life where those songs were playing? Yeah, exactly. I think about road trips. Like Joshua Tree to me is the ultimate road trip album. Like you're on the open highway, you're cranking that album. Yeah. And so it's crazy. I'll listen to that and just be flooded with like thoughts and memories and moments and friends and
absolutely.
The reason I thought about it is we were talking about these guitars. I saw a documentary where the Edge was talking about, or not, it wasn't even the Edge, it was his guitar tech.
Oh yeah.
And he's talking about how he only plays. Is this true? He only plays the gear that he recorded that song with. He plays that gear live.
Pretty much, yeah. As much as possible. Yeah, he really does. Yeah, and he even, he's so meticulous with his effects and stuff. Like, I know a few years back, I forget what record it was, but they were making the record, and he had all these Line 6 effects units, right?
Okay,
these kind of distortion effects units where you can save all these different presets.
Yeah.
So he would come up with a sound on it, and then he would just, okay, so now this box, that's what that's for. I'm going to set it aside. I'm going to go buy another one.
So it's designed to do like a myriad of things.
Yeah.
But he dial it in to a point where it's like, okay, don't touch this
exactly.
anymore.
Yeah, that one's okay. That one's done. We're just using it for that.
That's wild. Yeah, I this thing was talking about too how he'll find, like a lot of guys will write a piece of music and then layer effects on top of it.
Sure.
And they were saying like he will find a new effect and then develop a song around, or a lick, or a pattern around that specific thing.
Yeah, he's so innovative when it comes to that kind of thing.
It's
really very inspiring.
Well, your place and even just talking to you as you were taking the tour with me, it reminded me of that, because like there's all these amazing guitars and amps, but then you also have like Tinker toys, and you've got water bottles shoved with bells, and you've got like Have you always kind of been one of these guys who gets a sound in your head and then has to figure out something tangible that's going to make that sound, or what's your process with that?
Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's like this really interesting hunt, because I'm both I'm a guitarist, I'm a songwriter, but I also just produce records for people.
Yeah.
And the production process I love so much, because you can go in with certain ideas, like, okay, this song is going to be a mid-tempo kind of rock tune or whatever, and it's going to hit the bridge and it's going to open up and build and stuff, and you can kind of have a some general kind of roadmap of where you want to go. Maybe it has something to do with the lyric that you feel like, okay, it needs this kind of certain driving beat or whatever, or these certain kind of sounds. But then when you get into it, sometimes it takes a left turn. Sometimes I don't know how many times I've been working on a tune, say with a couple friends, maybe with a drummer and bass player and myself. And the drummer will do something that will be like, wow, that's not exactly where I thought we were going to go, but let's follow this through. Let's chase this down. And that can all of a sudden spawn on, sometimes I'll then be like, oh yeah, okay, what if we took this toy piano and just, played like 8 notes on it, ding, 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 like, what if that was on the chorus? Okay, so we try that. Now that's cool. What if we took that toy piano and distorted it, ran it through, a distortion pedal, and like, okay, that takes us to this place, and okay, so now what if we, and all of a sudden you find yourself kind of going down this rabbit trail, you know? And sometimes, I mean, the fun part about it, but sometimes maybe the frustrating part about it, sometimes you'll end up in a dead end and you have to kind of,
you find your way down this path and then find out that's not where you wanted to head.
Exactly, right.
And backtrack and stuff.
Right, right. But I've always been I've always liked to experiment with sound. I tend to I love to mix lo-fi with hi-fi. I love to mix distorted with clean. And when I say that, not just about guitars, I mean like vocals or drums or whatever. Light with dark. I like contrast.
Yeah.
And I like what's fun about the recording process. Like when recording first started, it was all about documenting a performance, right?
Right.
Like when you hear like really old, like Elvis recording or whatever,
Sinatra stuff. Like they would record with the orchestra live,
right? And there is an art to that, and it's a performance, and it's very cool. Yeah. But then at some point along the way, people started. I mean, the Beatles certainly did this, but probably even before then, people started realizing, that recording can be a little more like painting. It doesn't have to be just like you can now you can have like a picture of the way the band's supposed to sound, but now you can slap on some extra colors, or you can tweak or make something more impressionistic or fuzzy or echoey or whatever, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to reflect the true performance. It becomes almost an art form into itself, right?
Oh yeah.
So I've really taken to that. I love all of it, but there's something really fun about, well, for example, I'm working on a record right now with a couple of friends of mine, and the songwriter he's a great lyricist. He can just write a great song on guitar, and he could just play it and sing it, and it's great,
Yeah.
And so we're trying to capture the song, like that. But then we're trying, it's so fun to try to juxtapose that with, like yesterday I was working with a friend of mine, a keyboard player. We took this old Acetone organ, with this crazy vibrato, and ran it through a distortion pedal, and then took a piano and ran it through a harmonica mic, and just, offset it with all these different colors, and for me that's where
adventure.
That's the adventure. That's
where the magic is.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's really the role of a producer, right? Like how much of your work is, and I want to get into the different types of things you do, from album production to production for TV and all of that kind of stuff. But, when someone comes in and they play you a real rough, keys in a vocal or guitar in a vocal, how much of it is a partnership of you saying, okay, this is where you want to go, but they've got to give you some sort of freedom as the producer, right? To help cultivate.
Right. Yeah. I mean, ideally, you want a camaraderie, you want a mutual respect, you want some trust there.
Right.
It's pretty crucial, because music is usually something that's very, it can be personal. It can be kind of putting yourself out there, you know?
Yeah.
So you want that trust. And I find my job as a producer, it varies a little bit depending on the project. Sometimes you have somebody who has very clear, they have a very clear idea of who they are and what they want to say and what they want to sound like, right?
Yeah.
So then it's more maybe about helping them be that best version of that.
Yep.
Or one thing I love to do is try to find what makes them different than everybody else,
Yeah.
What separates them. And it's funny, many times it might be a thing about the way they sing that they don't even like, It'd be a quirky
Isn't
thing.
that funny?
It's a thing that they're trying to get rid of, but I'm like, no,
that's what makes you sound.
That's what makes you unique,
I think too, now we live, this has probably always been true artistically, what you're saying, but we live in a time where everything is so filtered and cleaned up that there is a lot of the uniqueness is in the grit, and whether it's you're a musician and it's a flaw in your what could be a flaw in your vocal in your opinion, or as a comedian and you're like, oh, I don't want to talk about this area of my life because there's a lot of hurt there. Sometimes that's where the juice is,
Absolutely.
That's where, if we were watching the TV show, that'd be the exciting part,
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you get to partner with people and help them see that, because sometimes
Right.
For artists, we can be frustrated and going like, it's not working and I don't know why, or something's missing and I don't know what it is. So,
right. Yep.
Sometimes that outside perspective is huge.
Yeah, I really think it's pretty important for I think all artists. It's funny because I was just talking to my wife about this. So I've been writing. Well, I've been writing for a long time, but I've been writing in the last couple years, some more personal stuff that I've just been kind of putting to the side, and eventually I think it'll probably be a project,
Right.
But it's stuff that's it's a little more. It's not stuff I'm necessarily doing on assignment. Like we can get into the stuff I do for television or writing for other people. This is more my own personal expression. And I've found there's been a couple times where I'm like, man, I either need to bring in an outside producer, which is weird because I do that for other people.
Yeah.
Or I need to somehow figure out a way to kind of step outside me as the writer here, the artist, and be able to be that guy who can look at something and go like, no, that's actually cool. It might not be perfect, but that's what makes it unique, And so I think having that kind of sounding board, that's somebody who can really kind of root for you and help you kind of, I think it's really important.
That's huge. Well, and it translates to every area of art,
Right.
I mean, I can't tell you how many guys I know, I do magic shows and comedy and that kind of stuff. I can't tell you how many people will be wrestling with a routine or a piece that they feel this passion about it, but that's not coming through to the audience. And then they just, instead of, rehearsing it on their own, they put it in front of someone and they go, oh, it's if you said this instead of that, or if, you switch this piece around, all of a sudden it changes the context of what you're trying to say,
Absolutely. Yeah.
That collaboration is huge.
It is.
And it sounds like that's always been, since you started out playing out in the garage with your buddies, you've always kind of done this with other guys, huh?
Yeah, I really have. I think that's how I do my best work. I mean, there are times just because of the nature of the business, and music business is very different than it was 15, 20 years ago, it's leaner and meaner, and technology has changed a lot. So now you can do so much stuff on your own, or you can do something and then send wave files to somebody in their studio, and they can do something and send it back to you.
So different than like reel to reel and
right exactly. So it's very easy and sometimes tempting to kind of silo yourself. I was talking to Jen about this, and I was talking to my friend Tyler yesterday about this because we were working at his studio, and I could have just sent him the files, and because we're all busy with lives and, work and family and just trying to figure out life. Right. So it's tempting sometimes to just do something on your own, send it to somebody. And I'm glad that we have that ability, but it's way better when you're face to face with shoulder to shoulder with somebody where you're actually working on something. 'Cause I can sometimes be in here for a couple days on my own working on something, and then I'll be excited about it. And then I'll kind of get past that. And now I'm like, I don't know. Maybe
I don't even know if it's good anymore.
This isn't good,
Isn't that funny? You go on like this roller coaster,
right?
Like, it's the greatest thing I've ever done, and then you're like, this is terrible.
Yeah, right.
And then you could just get to this mellow point of like, I don't even care.
right, exactly.
So what do you do in moments like that? You're saying you would throw it to like Jen or someone to like listen to it?
I'll do that, or I'll kick it to a couple, producer friends of mine, musician friends of mine. That definitely is helpful. Sometimes you just need to walk away and come back, just even the next day. It reminds me, that goes for producing, songwriting. Like you said, it goes for anything creative, right?
Right.
I was just, the other day, I was kind of rereading. Have you ever read that book, The War of Art? Stephen Pressfield?
Yeah.
There's so many great little juicy quotes in there, But I'm going to screw up the quote, but he basically said something about the most important thing about art is the work that we do and showing up every day and doing it, and it's so true because it's so easy to kind of wait for the inspiration, but it actually, I find if I just show up every day, the inspiration will come. It might not come every day, but it'll come. Where if you wait for the inspiration, who knows if it's going to come,
Bobby, I'm so glad you're bringing this up, because this was one of the things, I always think through when I know I'm going to sit down with someone, what do I want to ask them about, And one of the things that's really struck out to me is we'll go do these gigs that are honestly really plush kind of opportunities, Sure. The events that we've gotten to do, you end up at, the Four Seasons, or you're in Laguna, or you're at Boca or whatever.
Right.
So a lot of guys will take that time, and when they're not working, we'll just chill and relax or be by the pool, which is fine. Right. But one of the things that really stuck out to me about you is that you'll bring like a travel studio with you, and you're back in the room working for 6-7 hours before the event at night. And it was encouraging to me, because we'll make this excuse of I'm not inspired, or I need a muse, or I'm not motivated, or I've got writer's block, or whatever it is. Right. But one of the things I love is that, at least in the few experiences I've had with you, is you show up to work. Like you make music every day. Like so much of it is just showing up.
It is. It's true. Yeah. It's so true. And it's amazing. Like I really do think more than half the battle is just showing up, really, and just getting started, you know? Because I mean, just even a couple days ago, literally not yesterday, the day before, I came in here and I was pretty tired. I was kind of feeling a little burnt on the record that I was working on. And I gotta say, the first probably couple hours, I was just like, you know what, I just should call it a day, you know, like. But no, I mean, I got to move this thing forward. I need to get this thing done. I mean, I owe it to myself. I owe it to the people that I'm working with. You know, there's other things on the docket that need to get done, you know? Right. So I just kind of pushed through that. And I actually got, it's funny, I ended up doing some stuff that wasn't necessarily what I thought I would do, you know? Like I came in, there was a problem song that, it seems like almost every record I work on, there's at least one song that's like, dang it.
It's like elusive, or like you're just not, it's like landing.
Yeah, right. It's like trying to chase that thing into the forest and I can't catch it, you know? Yep. And so the first chorus of the song, there was just something not right about it. And I came in and I tried, I don't know how many different guitar parts, you know, and I kind of started like throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks, right? Yeah. And none of it I was happy with. It all sounded overthought. It sounded like I was trying too hard, you know? So I broke for lunch, came in, I muted everything but the vocal and the drums and the bass. Yeah. And I was just listening and go, you know, this chorus is really, it's good. It's there. It's good. Yeah. It's like, so I actually started kind of thinking of it more like from a minimal approach. I had like stacked so much junk on this thing, you know? So I started like just bringing slowly in, like auditioning like one little thing. Okay, no, that's not, no, now it's losing what makes it cool, you know, like it's distracting, you know, because there was something very powerful about just the lyric, you know. Yep. And I'd add this guitar part, and all of a sudden it's getting taken away from the lyrics. So then I tried this other one, and then I finally found just this simple acoustic guitar. Yeah. That was cool. So I ended up scratching all this other work, and I think you have to be. I used to not be good at this. I used to think, oh man, that's time wasted. Like I spent all these hours trying this, trying that, tracking these guitars or these keyboards or whatever, and now I'm not going to use them. I have to figure out a way to use them, you know. But no, like, and it's not a waste of time because it actually got you from A to B. Yes, you know, it might have been a windy road or whatever, but
maybe that was its purpose. Right, its purpose was if you did this, then it would challenge you to do this next thing. Right, but don't be so precious in the process that you got to be willing. Like, this is one thing I see, you know, speakers or keynote presenters do, or, you know, people who get in front of an audience. They'll write a script. Great. You feel great about it. And before you get in front of an audience, you feel like it's awesome. Mm-hmm. When you get on stage, if it's not working, you have to be willing to let it all go. Right. All the prep, because in any art form, we are trying to reach an audience, you know, and the greatest art in the world, if it isn't received by an audience, is, you know, it's not fulfilling its purpose. Right. Exactly. So the preparation is huge, but you also have to be willing to, at any moment, to say, okay, that preparation got me to this point where I'm here. Yep. Now I got to let it go and do whatever I need to do to reach the audience.
Absolutely. You know? Yeah. And in a way, you could even look at it like that stuff that doesn't work it's almost sometimes I think it's where you learn the most, you know, like there's something about trying something and it fails, and then okay, well, now I've, you know, I don't know. I learn way more from that than when I just do something and like, oh, that works great. You know,
I mean, those moments are awesome. Yeah. But you don't learn anything.
No, because
you don't grow.
Those are more like just gifts that kind of happen. Like,
has nothing to do with you.
I almost think those are like free passes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, I just did this and it worked, and I almost can't take credit for it, you know?
Yeah.
But when you try something and, that doesn't work, and try something else, and that's where you really learn, right? You know?
How many people do this just in other areas of life with a relationship? You know, they've gone through so many bad breakups.
Right.
And they just spend all this time focusing about how those could have been great.
Right.
Instead of going, hey, take and learn from that and now put it into something healthy, you know?
Yeah.
And same thing artistically, you know, don't chase old muses.
Exactly.
I was listening to, or I read a book recently. It was a book about comedy writing. And the guy who wrote the book was a writer for, he was Bob Hope's head comedy writer.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I was thinking about this as I was driving in to see you, because he says there was this time where he had written all of these jokes about golf for Bob Hope. I said Bob Hope.
Yeah.
Right? So he'd written all these jokes for Bob Hope. He was doing all these golf tours. And then Bob Hope is going to do this like big corporate event. And he calls him and he says, I need some new golf jokes. And he's like, I just wrote you 50 jokes that these people haven't heard. And he's like, why do you want new jokes? And Bob Hope said, I'm paying you with new money. And it made me think about the fact that if we're going to be professionals in what we do, and this is where you have such a different perspective in music, is because it's one thing when you're writing your own thing and someday that's going to become something. But when you're getting paid on assignment, whether it's another artist who says, I need a song for this record, or it's a television show that says, we need a song that sounds like this.
Right.
You have to produce.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can't wait for the inspiration. You can't just do whatever you want. You do.
And are there, for you in that world, especially like in the TV world, is a lot of it where you're submitting projects?
Like a spec work thing? Where
is it like, or is it like they say, hey, we'd like to see what you can put together, and other people are putting it out, and if you don't get it out first, you might not get the opportunity, or? Yeah,
it's a mixture of things.
Okay.
There's a certain percentage of it which is exactly that, where it's like, you know, you're one of just who knows how many people that are submitting stuff, and you need to do great work, and you got to do it fast, right? Because you need to get it in early before they find something that they fall in love with. And it's got to be great, because it's a very because it's competitive, you know. So there's certainly that. There are other situations where I will be given. They'll work more closely with me, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get the gig. They'll be like, okay, we have a scene where this person in this family died, and there's going to be a scene where they all are kind of grieving, and it's like there's no dialogue, and we need a song that kind of reflects the vibe, the mood, the sentiment, So then I'll work with that. Occasionally I'll work to picture. Not that often though. It's usually more like I just said. It's more like
just a description of paint the picture with words. And
exactly. And then sometimes it's a little more general. I mean, I've done music for television now for about 15 years. So, and I've done a lot of work with ABC Disney, and so they kind of know what I do, and I know what they like, and so now we have a mutual understanding on what we're about. So they'll sometimes they'll say like, hey, can you do 5 songs, kind of dark aggressive songs for this cop show, or can you do 10 instrumentals for this news 2020 like investigative reporting, or 3 songs for this comedy, and it's more like very general,
right.
But in all those cases it is putting a different like hat on, because you can't just say whatever you want to say,
right? And
you can't necessarily, those situations usually aren't the situations where I can get super experimental,
right.
Like I have I have to kind of keep it in a certain lane, right? You know, so but it's it's great. I think having parameters can actually really spawn creativity. You know? I really do.
Yeah, because they say this is the feel we're going for. This is what, and you go, oh well. Yeah. When I play this, it makes me feel that way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or even lyrically, it can kind of like I just a couple weeks ago I sat down with a good friend of mine in this very room that I write with all the time. This friend of mine, Dana J, great artist, songwriter, and she and I sat down with this actress that's on this show. She's a musician.
Okay.
And she there was going to be a scene where she was like going to perform one of her new songs at this kind of like a fundraising night or something like that.
Yeah.
So that was super fun because we literally were with the woman who plays this character, and she literally was like, well, her character's name, let's see, now I'm spacing. Her name's Kate. Oh, Tessa. Tessa's,
okay.
Yeah. So she's like, well, Tessa would think this way,
Wow.
Like it was really weird. Like,
yeah,
we're like, whoa, you have two personalities right
That's
now.
wild.
Okay,
And so now you're writing a piece,
for
a fictional character,
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's going to be presented by this actress,
Yeah, right. Yeah, but it was super fun. It was super. It really narrowed the focus of what we had to do.
Yeah.
So in some ways, it actually made it easier. I mean, you can go into that situation and it might sound daunting because it could be like, well, I'm not this girl Tessa.
Right.
I'm not like, how am I going to write from that perspective or whatever? But so there is, I guess, maybe that challenge. But once we got past that, you know, it was actually super fun. It was like, and Dana said to me at the end of the day, it was like, yeah, it was almost like I was getting to play that character through the song, like,
that's wild.
So it looks different. Sometimes it's very focused like that, and sometimes it's a little more general, I will say though, I mean, after doing it for a while, I think I've gotten better at knowing what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been some times where, I've worked really hard on a tune.
Yeah.
And, it's not fun to get that email back, like, and some of these people, they're really busy, like some of these producers and music supervisors on the show, they don't have time to kind of sugarcoat their answers. They're like,
very direct.
Yeah, this isn't working. This isn't working. This is too slow.
Yeah.
This is fine. This is fine until the chorus, and then it loses me. Like,
oh yeah,
like
TV and film is a different world.
Yeah.
It is rush,
right.
and then wait.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it's you get that email back right quick, and then sometimes I'm sure you
put
all this work in, you send it out, and you don't hear anything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's just radio silence.
Right, and then there's that fine art of knowing when to kind of just like let go and just like wait it out, or when to kind of follow up.
Yeah. Are there some projects where, I know this is something I deal with, but the challenge of there's that moment you get the call or the email and you immediately go, wow, this could be big. And then, or you realize, man, this placement's going to lead to X amount of dollars.
Right. Oh yeah.
How much of that or how do you cope with staying creative and not getting caught up in if this happens, it's going to mean this for my career or financially or.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great question. I think two things with that. Sometimes it's a matter of balance. Like, I know if I chase if I go into mercenary, like, I'm just making widgets here kind of thing. If I go into that mode too much, I won't be as happy.
Yep.
And actually my work will suffer,
Yep.
So sometimes it's kind of just the balance of like, okay, I'm going to have to be very, utilitarian on this, but tomorrow I get to work on this, or whatever. It's like sometimes I have to do that.
Well, yeah.
And then sometimes I think you also have to just hold the whole thing very just loosely, I think. Like a few years ago, I got a call to pitch something to a national commercial. I'm not going to say what it was. I don't know if I should or not, but it was like a household brand, and it was going to be a pretty high dollar, like probably the biggest.
That's mailbox money.
Yeah.
You get those commercials like that, right? I mean,
yeah, and even the upfront money was like really big on this.
Yeah.
So I worked really hard on this. It was a jingle. It was like a 90-second.
Oh wow!
Jingle,
so this was like something that would be reused.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And I haven't really done a lot of jingle work. So it's a little different than it's different than just writing songs that end up on shows.
Right.
This is very, very specific. It's specific in the time. Literally it had to be 90 seconds, and then there had to be a 60-second version of it.
Okay.
And it had to hit, we got the commercial, the video.
So you're having to write to film.
So
and hit at certain points.
Literally, at this one scene. when you see the actual product for the first time, it's got to like explode and
yeah.
just get all big, and it's got to, and it was like a summertime campaign, so it's got to be really happy and
Right.
like
And they're not thinking in like 4/4.
no, no, not at all.
So you're like, oh, I gotta.
Yeah, no, that was actually challenging. Yeah. Anyway, so I worked really hard on it. I got kind of obsessive and kind of manic about it. And part of it was the challenge of it. Part of it was chasing like the big pay on it, And so we submitted it, got back some notes, and they're like, oh yeah, this is great. What about changing da 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 da? And it's, what was hilarious was I thought this thing was pretty epic already, like by the end, it's just like there's timpani drums and there's sleigh bells and big ahs and violins and guitars. And like, it's just like the big, psh, and they're like, yeah, it needs to be bigger. Yeah.
What? And you're like maxed out on like what you think it needs.
Exactly. Oh. So I went back and I like, all right. Like I had to vent for a minute for Jen. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This thing's already over the top and now they want it bigger, you know?
Yeah.
So I stuck in like cannon explosions, like on the downbeats, like it's like, like all this stuff, and got back. And they were like, yeah, that's better, but at like 27 seconds, I think that needs to hit just a little harder. I'm like, so then, it really does get into this thing where you have to put aside your artist feelings, I mean, it is a commercial, so I wasn't going in thinking this was my precious thing,
right?
But still, I'm still like a musician, so now I feel like it's crossing into a world that's not even musical, right? So, but I'm like, this is what they want, they're the client, right?
Yeah.
So I did all this, finally submitted, they're like, great. And then didn't hear anything for like two months. Nothing for 2 months. I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
And it was literally like, it was like a 24-hour turnaround. So I'd worked on this thing.
Oh, yeah.
Stayed up way too late, whatever, got it turned in. And then I'm like, really? And I'm just going to wait for, 2 months?
Yeah.
So finally, after 2 months, we just kind of checking in, hey.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, yeah, we went with something else.
Oh, my God.
So, but the funny thing is, so that was probably 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Since then, I've had 3 other chances for the same product.
Really?
And I still haven't landed it,
Oh, my goodness.
And every time if I'm honest, every time it's a little harder to take on the challenge,
I'm picturing, I don't know what product it is, but I'm picturing Bobby walking through a grocery store. And every time he goes down that one aisle and sees that one thing, just a fish shake.
Right. Exactly. So, but you know what?
Or every time that car drives by, I'm going to find out. I'm just fishing.
Actually, I've done a couple car ones too. Yeah.
Is it crazy when you write a piece of music and then you see it in a production, whether it's TV or...
Absolutely. It's funny too, because there's been many times where I'll be sitting there watching something and I'll hear it. I'm like, that sounds familiar. And I won't even know for like 10, 20 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's me.
That's so wild.
It's actually happened a few times, which is, it's kind of surreal. It's kind of like, because, I've done, after 15 years, like I've done a lot of this stuff, so it's not like I can keep track of all of them, really, So.
And so as you're writing a piece, whether it's that, something that you wrote that didn't get picked up, or ones that maybe aren't, what's the terminology? Do they do like a direct buyout kind of thing versus like a licensing deal, or?
They do both.
Okay.
So yeah, and I'll do both. But with some networks, they'll do a buyout. Yeah. They'll literally buy the master from me.
So they'll say like, we want to be the only people using this piece of music.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then in some, they just license it.
Yeah. And then, so for those ones that are either licensed or that, just ideas as you're working in the studio, do you maintain just a catalog of pieces you worked on, or something you worked on for this record that didn't end up making the cut? And how do you do that? Like, how do you catalog everything?
What's funny is up until like, maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Somehow I just remembered this stuff,
Like it was just in your head?
Yeah, it was really weird. Because there'd be times I'd be working on something and be like, oh, you know what? That thing I did like 3 years ago, that's perfect for this. That I just never, it never went anywhere, and I'll pull that up and it works or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I'll be like, oh, I could take could take like the bass and drums groove from this thing that just kind of never went, and then just recut it, the guitars on it.
And it's all just in your head.
Yeah. But then I don't know what happened a couple of years ago. Like, I don't know. I think I just reached a point where now I can't.
Just
and
add capacity.
So Jen, actually, my wife Jen,
Yeah.
who is definitely the more organized out of the
And
two
she
of
helps
us.
manage a lot of the business side of like
she does.
You know, setting up new contracts and things like
Yep,
that. Yeah.
she does. Yeah. So she's actually gone through. I don't know how many hard drives. You know, just in our garage. I mean, there's probably 30 or 40 hard drives. You know, and she's gone through all of them, and she's made spreadsheets and stuff. So, so that's how we find stuff.
Now, have you ever had a horror story? And if this is too painful, I don't want to bring it up. But have you ever had a moment where you worked on a project and it was like amazing, and then hard drive crash, or you lost a piece, or?
Yes, I have.
Can you talk about it, or is it?
Oh man. Okay, so the first record I did with this. I don't even know if I ever told the artist. This girl Dana J that I work with quite a bit.
Yeah.
We were working on her first record, and I was just about done with it. I was literally, and it was the big push to finish. So it was like one of those weeks where I was like working really crazy long hours,
just
not
insane.
sleeping a whole lot. Like I actually don't work that way that much anymore, because I know it. Just I pay a price for it. So now I try to plan so I'm not like pulling all-nighters necessarily.
Yep.
But this was one of those situations where, I'm like, okay, it's going to mix, on Tuesday, it's Friday, and I just got to go. So, it was like not much sleep. And literally it was like maybe a day or two before it was supposed to be like turning everything over to my mix guy to mix this thing and just be done. The drive crashed, and I hadn't backed it up.
The whole album?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had backed up like way early,
all the work you put on it.
Right, exactly. So I literally felt sick to my stomach.
Oh yeah.
I think I might even had like a panic attack. Like I don't know. I was just so spent.
That's devastating.
Because I was physically just exhausted, and then I'm like, what has just happened? So we ended up actually we had to pay like, I don't know, like $2,700 to this one of these what do they call them, like clean rooms, where they go in, it's like
they figure out a way to get it back.
And they actually got everything back.
That's amazing.
But that was not fun. So now I definitely back up more often, let's just put it that way.
You talked about the music scene changing and even just technology changing. Mm-hmm. How do you stay up on like the current trends and stuff?
It's funny. I try to keep up to a certain degree, but you know what? I also just, if something's working for me, it's working for me. Yeah. So I think I go through cycles, like where I'll like, it's time to kind of upgrade things, So my recording platform is it's a computer based. It's a Mac Pro Tools setup, and then I use some other programs like Reason and Live and some other ones like that. And so occasionally, like it seems like every few years I'll be like, okay, I'll kind of really geek out, and some of it's going to some certain trade shows, some of it's just asking friends that just are doing what I do and going online to different forums, and then I'll upgrade. But then if it's working, man, because my thing is I want that stuff to kind of be invisible. I just want to make music, and I think I used to be maybe a little more enamored or obsessed with the tools, the software and the tools and stuff. And it is important, and it's important to know your tools. But man, it's so easy to get so wrapped up into that you're not really focusing on the music.
Right.
In fact, I had a intern in here for a while, younger guy, really smart guy, musician who wanted to kind of learn the recording process. Yeah. And so I was showing him some stuff in Pro Tools. And so then we were recording something, and I noticed he was really looking at the screen, the monitor, the video monitor, And I'm like, I asked him, I forgot what we were recording, but I'm like, hey, so how's that sound to you? And he's like looking and looking and looking. I'm like, don't look.
Yeah.
Listen, man.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, this is music, like, and it's an easy thing to do. And so I actually try to, as much as possible, like I used to have two screens in here. I went down to one, and sometimes I'll even turn the screen off, or I'll close my eyes or try to walk away from it,
Yeah.
And I try to also kind of blend old recording techniques with new, and
Right.
I try to like really get into like, let's try to make it sound good in the room and not just get it in the computer and try to make it sound good, like, because I think it's the tools are so powerful now.
It's easy.
It's tempting to just kind of rely on them,
Oh yeah.
But I guarantee you, when you get the performance, the sound and the performance,
Oh yeah.
Right in the room, it's way more. It's more convincing. It resonates. People might not know what the difference is, but they feel it.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And I even believe that. It's also so easy to fix everything now.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of touched on it. Like everything's so shiny and perfect now, and a lot of pop music, and some pop music, that's just the way it's made, and and there is a whole skill to that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's, Max Martin, those big, some of those big Taylor Swift productions and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're amazing,
Yeah.
But man, I think people fix way too much stuff.
Yeah.
There's something about just capturing, if it's a drummer that just, if it feels good and it's not totally locked to the tempo, whatever, who cares?
Right.
Or if you're playing a guitar solo and there's like one little bum note or it sustains a little weird.
Yeah.
Like, listen, does it move you? Is it like, is it exciting? Is it like,
Oh.
because we can fix all of that, but should we?
Isn't it crazy that you could have 10 guitar players play the same guitar, the same amp, the same gear,
Right.
the same notes, the same chord progression, and every one of them sounds different.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much of the person and the vibe and the attitude. I think Miles Davis was the guy who said anyone can play the blues. He basically said like 20% is the notes and 80% is the attitude of the guy playing the notes. Like there's just
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so that's so cool that you're talking about that, because we can overproduce things to the point where we lose the personal side of it.
Totally.
And so that's got to be a battle, as a producer, to get that vibe of whatever's in, you're not just trying to get the music, because if it was just getting a guitar player to play, you could get up and play it. Do you know what I mean? But like your job is to get whatever's in that guy
right
onto the recording.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think people are kind of craving that too. Like I've read some articles recently about how, the music business is hilarious now because so much music is just given away. It's downloadable for free.
And I want to talk about that too. I don't want to take you off of your topic, but let's hit on that
it's hilarious. It's frightening and sad and funny all at the same time. So a lot of labels have gone belly up and whatever. So there's that whole problem. But I read an article recently where live shows are like more successful tours are more successful than ever and selling out more than ever, because I think people want something that's really real. They don't they want that human humanness that to come through in the music, right?
And there's nothing like being there live and experience it.
Right.
I was so excited when you were posting videos and stuff of the U2 concert, but I know as cool as it was to watch it on Instagram there, I'm just sitting there going, you miss the feel. There is a rhythm and a resonance to a room when everybody's singing the same lyric. And
Oh yeah.
You're feeling it. You're feeling the music hit you. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Which is why, as a performer, it kills me when you're up there doing something and people are holding their phone up videotaping.
Right. Yeah. I know.
What are you doing?
I know.
Just be here. Like, you're here.
Exactly.
Don't worry about like being here so you can tell someone you are here. Be here.
Right. Yep. It's so true. Isn't it funny? It's so weird.
Well, there's something too. Like, how many times have you been somewhere or you've been at an event and then you're telling the story or you're showing the pictures or you're showing the video? And people are like, oh, that's cool.
Right.
You had to be there.
Exactly.
There's just something about
Exactly.
live performance that is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, but you're right. There is like a resonance. There's electricity, resonance that in the room, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, there's probably there's probably all kinds of layers there's probably literally a biophysical thing going on. There's a spiritual thing going on.
Breathing, there's
exactly.
something about the rhythm of everybody's heartbeat lining up. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Without getting like into crazy stuff. Like it really is an actual, like, it changes the feel of the of the room, man.
So I think that is something that I'm trying to more and more try to capture more of that on recordings. You know, like not worry about whether something's perfect, but worry about whether it actually moves me and that could be anything. That could be, it makes me excited. It can make me sad. It can make me happy. Whatever, as long as it makes me.
Oh, it's huge.
Feel something, right?
Is that always a challenge to kind of go against the pattern? I mean, I think you look at the Beatles, or you look at U2, or you look at any band or artist that is Elvis at the time, that has changed the game. They were going so against what everyone else was doing.
Yeah, right.
Almost to the point where there was a pushback. And then when people released, it just changed everything.
Right. Yeah.
Is that always a challenge for you? Is to like not just, I mean, you've hit on it some, but not to just do what works and what you know. There's that balance of someone hires you for a song, and there's in their head what they want, but then there's the thing that's really going to make the project better. How do you balance that?
Certainly sometimes I struggle with that, but I think I've always kind of liked trying to be a little different, and I think now, just being a little older now, I've become more comfortable with that. Like I kind of know what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, or what my aesthetic is, and I know that's not going to please everybody, it's interesting. There are certain artists that I've worked with that we've put out a record that I thought was great and powerful. It moved me, and then the next record they've gone to another guy, and I'm like, I'm not going to say it doesn't make me go, that's weird. It's kind of a bummer, but actually, now that I'm a little older, I get it, and I'm actually fine with it, because it's like maybe they want to do something different now, I know what I'm good at, and like if they want to do something else different, I don't want to necessarily try to be not who I am, like there is that tension, because when you're working for someone, whether you're producing a record for them or for the television stuff, where there is a client, there is a boss, right?
Yeah. So
you can't go in, you have to have a attitude, I think, of I need to serve the artist, serve the song. I always think of those two things, like how can I make this song really shine? How can I make this artist really shine? But mixed in there is who I am and what I bring,
Right. Oh, yeah.
And so I know that I'm not going to bring, I'm not the big, super shiny pop guy. That's just not what I do, Yeah. So if somebody's kind of pushing me that way, maybe it's just not a good fit,
That's such a healthy place to be in, man, because I've dealt with it, and then also had friends. There is that starving artist mentality of I got to take whatever work comes.
Yeah.
But then also realizing that work, honoring the project and honoring the client, and going, you know what, the best person you could call is this guy.
Yep. Yeah.
There's something about that of saying, I could use the money, I would like the work, but you need to call this guy because this thing is meant for them.
Right. And what's funny? Yeah. So there is that whole starving artist thing. It's hilarious. My wife and I talk about this all the time, because at this point in my career, I would think I wouldn't really have that mindset anymore, because I've done this for so long,
right.
But it's still in there a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But I really feel like, and I'm still learning this, I don't have this all figured out, but I'm getting a little bit better at it. It's really important to say no to certain things, because it opens up energy, space for other things that are probably the right things, the better things. Not that the thing you say no to is a bad thing. It's probably a good thing. But is there a better thing that's more what you're made to do?
Good.
And you have to balance that with, obviously,
Right.
finances and all that. You can't just like say, if I all of a sudden told Jen, like, you know what, I'm just going to say no to everything until that perfect thing came along, she'd be like, we have a mortgage.
Yeah, exactly.
So, within reason.
Yeah.
But it is funny. I have exercised that a little bit now where like, you know what? Yeah, this isn't really a good fit for me. They would be better going to somebody else.
Yeah.
And it feels good. It feels good to kind of like know that like, okay, you were honest and you honored that. And now like it is a little scary, like especially if there's nothing on the calendar.
Right. Well, you bring up Jen too. Like it's huge to have a spouse that gets it.
Absolutely.
I don't know how I would do what we do if Katie wasn't, if I said, Kate, you know what, this opportunity came up, and it's X amount of dollars, but I don't feel right about it. I don't feel like I'm supposed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And for her to say no, knowing that money would be helpful.
Right.
She's more committed to, our family and where I'm at personally and all of that, How do you and Jen balance out like the workload, family life kind of thing? You're deciding either what work to take or when stuff is getting kind of hectic. How do you know when to say, all right, we're going to pull back?
Well, okay. I mean, to give you the full on dirty truth about it, like, so about 4 or 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago, I think, I was coming off of a season where I was working way too much, and also we were living much further than we were living in Fullerton. Okay. My studio was here.
Yeah.
So there was like a 45-minute commute each way. So I was working really, really hard, long hours, and we weren't seeing, many times we wouldn't have dinner together,
Right.
I was finishing a record, and it was like crunch time.
Yeah.
And there was the last week of that record, I never went home. I basically slept here, and I'd sleep like 2 hours, 3 hours,
Right. Yeah.
And it was one of those things where I'm like, I have so much work to do. And it was, looking back on it, I probably should have brought in a couple people. I was kind of the point of the record where I was kind of tying everything together and like, and I kind of took it all on my own shoulders, which probably was a bad idea, So I was under a lot of stress. And then in the middle of it, I was having some computer problems. So I would be like working. It'd be like 3, 4 in the morning. I'm drinking coffee, whatever. Yeah. And then my computer would crash and that's like a 15-minute, like reboot, relaunch the programs, blah, 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 all this stuff. So anyway, long story short, I finished the record literally like it was here like a week working almost around the clock, go to mastering.
Yeah.
And then the next day we hop on a plane and go to Hawaii for a vacation. So now I had been working so hard and I was so out of balance. I didn't even know. I mean, I knew the island we were going to,
right? But
beyond that, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know where we were staying.
And you're probably justifying the work, knowing I'm not going to be home, but we're going to be together in Hawaii.
Exactly. Yeah. So I get to Hawaii, and I have a full-on anxiety like breakdown attack. I think what it was I was going on adrenaline and stuff, and then I get over there, and my body was just like, okay, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you what's up, And I had never had anything like that before, so I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. So we end up going to the ER. They're like checking me out. And they can't find anything wrong. And I was thinking. So I started thinking like, I think it's an allergic reaction. So they released me, whatever. The next day I have another one,
dude.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? So we go back to the ER. It happens 3 times in a row.
Bobby, I wish I didn't know what you were talking about.
Oh, wow.
Oh, bro.
All right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, man.
I'm feeling you, man.
So the third trip to the ER, the doctor comes in and she goes, I think you're having like a panic anxiety attack,
Yeah. You're like, what?
I'm like, what? What?
I don't panic.
Yeah, right. So
I get things done.
Right, exactly. So this was all new news to me.
Yeah.
So anyways, she tells me to go, she gives me like a referral to a doctor on the island. I go see him and he puts me on like a medication to get me through the rest of the vacation. And I was a wreck.
Just useless.
Yeah, I was useless.
Oh.
I kind of would fluctuate in between being having a panic breakdown and then being like drugged up, So it was a rough trip.
Yeah.
Like it was not what we envisioned for our week in Hawaii. Anyway, so that started the beginning of a crazy journey for me. That was like, well, really a pretty intense couple of years where I was battling because it triggered something in me. So now for the next couple of years, I was triggering. I was having panic attacks. I was on and off medication, all this stuff. I guess without making it too long of a story, in the midst of that, thankfully, I was fortunate enough. I think part of it was Jen's encouragement. Part of it was friends. I started seeing a therapist. Yeah. I started taking, better care of myself. Yep. Started walking every day, kind of setting, it's like change, I rethought everything. I really rethought like my day, my schedule, what I ate.
Which is huge when you've been on whatever it takes schedule.
Right, exactly.
Working all hours of the night.
Yeah.
Just barely sleeping.
Yep.
Sleeping at odd times.
Right.
And then getting your body to go, okay, no, this is when we eat, this is when we walk, this is when we...
Really, to be honest with you, I feel like it took almost 3 years of... it was a gradual process.
Yeah.
But today, I feel like I'm in a way healthier, healthier rhythm.
Yeah.
So that was the big... That was like... I actually don't regret any of it because I feel like I learned so much.
Totally. Yeah.
So now I'm much more self-aware of when things start getting out of whack. And Jen also is really helpful there because she's seen the warning
knows what
signs
to expect.
before. Yeah. Yep. So like right now is actually a pretty busy season, and she said to me a couple days ago, she's like, "You need to take care of yourself."
It's huge, man.
You need to like schedule a little time to just some downtime. She's like, you need to. She's like, "You've been talking about getting a haircut for like 3 weeks,
right?
Like, go get a haircut. Like,
take the time.
Like, yeah." What? Just little things.
The world's not going to burn while you're getting a haircut.
Right, exactly. Right.
From my experience and from friends, we kind of just say, "Well, I'm doing this," and it's like I'm sacrificing my time for my art, or I'm sacrificing family time, or I'm sacrificing, sleep, which is okay in seasons. But to realize that you are the vessel through which whatever you create comes out.
Absolutely.
And if you're not in a healthy space, either physically or emotionally or mentally, do what you got to do. Do the work. Go to therapy.
Yeah.
Get out and exercise. Yeah. I used to balk at therapy. Like I'd be like, "Oh, you just need to work harder." Such a jerk. And then I went to therapy and was like, "This is the greatest thing that I've had to do."
It really is. Yeah.
You just got to take care of yourself. So
yeah,
if you're listening to this and you're burnt out,
the
answer is probably not pushing yourself harder.
No, it's not.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah, and you're right. That applies to everyone. But it is interesting. It seems like artists, creative people, they might be a little more susceptible than other people.
Yeah.
Just think about all the people recently that. Just a week or two ago, Chris Cornell, anxiety, depression, he's on medication. And it seemed like he was, over the years making a lot of right choices. Right. But at some point, maybe, I don't know him personally, but maybe he was pushing too hard, or maybe people were pushing him too hard, or maybe something was out of whack, obviously,
Well, and just the nature of the schedule of an artist is a weird life. Usually you're working with people who are doing other work during the day, so you're getting together at night, what I mean, to record, or anyone who's ever done gig work, it's like, we're gonna go play and we're on from 9 to 1 in the morning,
right?
Or we got to travel 6 hours to get to Florida to do this event, and perform for 45 minutes and travel 6 hours back, like it just you have to take care of yourself in the process. And I can't imagine guys like Chris Cornell, or these artists that we look up to, and you go, wow, how even Robin Williams recently in the comedy world, and you go, someone who brought so much joy to other people, how could they be in this situation? And the truth is, you just never know. And you gotta, like you said, watch the signs and take care of yourself. And,
absolutely.
And we gotta look out for each other too, man. So
Well, dude, I know we're getting far on in here, and I know we don't got that much time, but I gotta ask you about the Emmy thing, man.
Okay. Hilarious.
You won an Emmy, dude.
I did, yeah.
Did you ever think when
No.
you started playing guitar was your first instrument?
Yeah.
You started playing guitar in
Yeah.
this room as a kid.
Right. Yep.
Did you ever think that you would be writing
No,
music?
never, ever.
What was that? Just
Never,
give
ever.
me the brief. What that experience was like, man.
Okay, let me back up a little bit.
Yeah, do it.
So yeah, I never ever in my wildest dreams, because even the TV music thing.
Yeah.
I was, up until like 16 years ago, I didn't even really. It wasn't even on my radar, right?
You're playing live
Yeah,
and you're helping
right.
produce stuff for other people, and
Yeah, and how I got into that, just really quick. It's not a crazy story, but it's a classic kind of situation where I'd been in a local band for 2 or 3 years, just playing around, and we stopped playing like a lot of bands do, and I kind of lost touch with the lead singer. I hadn't talked to her in a year or two, and she calls me one day and it's like, she had gotten a job at ABC Disney.
yeah.
And she calls me one day and she's like, hey, they're looking for music. Do you want to submit some music? And
I love it.
I was like, yeah. It was funny because I think they asked me like, do you have anything? I'm like, yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And I got a phone. I'm like, I got nothing.
Yeah.
It was just a reflex. I was just like, I just said yes, and then I'll figure it out later.
Oh yeah.
So I sat down with a friend of mine. We wrote 5 songs, submitted all 5 songs. They liked all 5 songs. It was weird. I was like, really?
That's wild, man.
And I'm like, how does this work? I've never done this,
Yeah.
So they took the 5 songs, they placed them on shows and whatever. And,
Yeah.
And then that started a whole relationship. At first, it was just with ABC Disney, and where they started calling me for songs or whatever.
Yeah.
So then, fast forward a few years later. So maybe it was just like 3 or 4 years later, I got my first Emmy nomination. And that was hilarious.
How does that happen? Like they just call you one day or send you an email and are like, hey, by the way, you're
literally
nominated.
I just got a phone call. Yeah.
And that wasn't even on your, like when you were doing TV, did you even at that point, like, did you realize that was a possibility?
No, I had no idea.
So it was like, surprise, you're nominated for an Emmy.
Yeah, I'm like, really? What? Oh, how does this work? Like in my mind, I didn't even realize. I thought like, oh yeah, Emmys like actors get Emmys. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I guess they give them to songwriters and musicians too. So anyway, that was my first nomination. Went to the ceremony. Was nervous as all get out.
Yeah.
It's all world that like I had just gotten into, but I wasn't even really in the world. I was just basically just kind of connecting with that world on a very
totally
whatever. So anyways, went to the thing, didn't win, whatever. But it was nerve-wracking but fun, right?
Yeah.
So then I was nominated again, didn't win. So I think it was the third time's the charm, right?
Yeah.
So, and what's hilarious was the third time I get the call again, like, hey, you're nominated again. It was for the song Dust that I wrote with this friend of mine, Ben West.
Yeah.
And it's a super sad song. And it was written actually I mentioned earlier, it was written for a scene where this character dies on the show and whatnot. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I'm nominated again. So Jen and I were in Santa Barbara on vacation.
Okay.
And we were going to go down for the Emmy ceremony. But we were having such a great time, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to win. Like I've been nominated twice, and I didn't win. So we didn't go. And sure enough,
you won.
I won. I get a text like that night, like, hey, you won, from somebody who was there,
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was the song Dust it was in an episode of General Hospital, which has been on the air longer than I've been alive, or close to it.
So many episodes.
So that was super fun. Even though we didn't go, we ended up celebrating and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then that song, since then, has been used in a bunch of other stuff. It was used in that show Alias. In the first episode when Sydney Bristow loses her fiance and there's a funeral, like they used the song for that, But so it was a very surreal experience. I never expected it, and it feels almost like a weird gift. Like I don't know if I didn't expect it. I don't know if I deserve it, but I'm thankful for it. And it's actually opened up some other doors. It's it's
so cool, man.
It's funny how those things can get people's attention when they're on your resume or whatever.
Right. Well, and how cool is it that your friend calls you?
Yeah.
And she says, "Do you want to submit for this?"
Right.
And at that moment, you could have said, "That's not really my thing," or I don't do that.
Yeah. I totally could have. And I've done that before.
Yeah.
I've actually, out of fear or out of just or not, just being like overwhelmed or whatever.
Right.
But thankfully in this situation, I was up for the challenge, right? So I was like, yeah, sure. And and then I get off the phone. I'm like, okay. We got to somehow come up with some songs really quick, So.
See, this is great too, because I know there's people who are listening who are going, ask him how he got into music placement, because we want to know. Give me the 5 steps that I need to do so that I can do this. And you're like, well, record an album with this person, and then don't hear anything for 3 years. And
right.
I mean, so much of it is just saying yes to opportunities and loving on people and doing good work.
Absolutely.
And then you never know.
Yeah, you don't.
I have a friend who got a job writing for a sitcom, a really well-known sitcom. And the way he got the job was he did a 1-person show that was really low attended in New York. And then 7 years later, this guy calls him and he says, "I saw your 1-person show in New York."
Wow.
And when I saw that show, at the time the guy was like going on auditions and stuff, he's like, "If I ever get my own show, I'm going to hire that guy because he was hilarious."
Wow.
And so
amazing.
7 years later, he gets this phone call out of nowhere. "You want to come write for this TV show?"
That's amazing.
It's one of those things of like not getting discouraged when maybe things aren't happening as quickly as you want.
Right. Yeah.
And just doing the good work and being a good person.
Yeah. That's true, man.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah. Work. Yeah. And keep on working at it too.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I guess you have to kind of do it out of the love of it.
Yes.
And then, when doors open, that's great, but you just got to keep on working that craft, man. It really, and it's easy. It might sound trite for me to say that. It's not. It's hard sometimes, right? Because we can easily get discouraged or procrastinate or this is never going anywhere, But I think there's something about doing the work and doing your best work, and then being ready for that phone call, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that phone call or that email or whatever. Whether it's a year later or 7 years later, that's amazing,
It's crazy, man.
Yeah. That's cool.
That preparation is huge. Honing your craft and your skills and learning and growing. And
absolutely.
It's another 80-20 thing, but it's that whole thing of 20% is getting to the dance and 80% is knowing how to dance when you get there.
Right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Man, Bobby, thank you for doing this, man.
Absolutely.
I love this. If people want to get a hold of you or they want to learn more, catbeachmusic.com, is that the best way?
There's catbeachmusic.com, and then there's actually bobbyhartry.com.
Yeah.
Both of those, there's contact info on there, and there's little info on past projects and projects coming up, and then there's also Catbeach Facebook that actually might be more current than the website. Who knows? Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll put links to both of those in the show
Okay.
notes, and that way people can just click on the show notes here if you're listening, and you can get a hold of Bobby and Jen and see all the work that they're doing. Man, thank you for this. So
welcome.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I several gems that I'm going to hang on to, so thanks for sharing your heart and
Right on.
your
Cool.
experience, man. And your
Absolutely.
beautiful place. We'll post some pictures as well so people can see
Definitely. Yeah.
how rad it is.